bank. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agent success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation. This is a pre-recorded episode. It is not your typical live one out there. And you know, you guys, all of my guests actually have jobs. You know, they're out here building their businesses, and not everybody can make that time slot work in the live show. So we do these from time to time out there. And you know, when it comes down to it, building your business is so much harder than a lot of people want to think when they're going out there, and especially changing careers and jumping into transportation as a second career or a third career, which happens very often in this industry. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the realities of starting that business out there. So I have my friend Nicole Hunt on the show today. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
No, I'm really looking forward to this. You know, you have a really good story. And, you know, when we first chatted a couple weeks back, you know, it was not challenging at all. I mean, we talked for almost 40 minutes. And
right?
your energy it's amazing. And I'm looking forward to kind of breaking it down. So what brought you into transportation, Nicole? How'd you get your start in freight?
So in 2017, I started as a broker at a brokerage, and I was a nurse before that. And I really was looking to get into sales, and I just wanted more money, and I wanted to have more flexibility on my own schedule, like more or less just numbers, like numbers. I want, numbers I don't want to be topped off somewhere. I really feel like I can put myself out there and sell better. Mm-hmm. And so never did I think that brokerage was an option or even transportation. So knowing nothing about the industry at all, a neighbor of mine, when I was, actually my sister's neighbor, he asked me if I would be interested in interviewing for a position. It was when, brokerages in Chattanooga, they had not exploded. They were, we had the Access America and then Coyote. And so the brokerage I started at was 12 guys. I was the only female, and started before ELDs or anything were in place. So I went through a lot of changes, was given 3 screens, a computer, a dock, and told to make sales calls. And I'm like, what am I selling? I don't know what I'm selling. And so, I started to just learn, you're not selling anything in particular, you're selling yourself, right? Like you're selling your services, which to me, over time, I've realized what those services are. Just, and the number one thing to me is communication, right? And so that's something that I've learned early on, but learned it the hard way, right? Like by issues happening, and just how could I prevent those from happening? So that's how I got started. And so I started in the brokerage, and now I own my own agency, or I'm an agent.
Yeah. So what was that like? I mean, coming into a sales job for the first time, and, it sounds like, was there a lack of training? Was it more of like, hey, just start dialing people and you'll figure it out? Because that's kind of common out there, Nicole, in transportation. Like I've heard that from actually an alarmingly high amount of people, is that like, oh, I got hired, and then they just essentially gave me a phone and said, here, start dialing all these numbers and ask about their freight. And like, I get it. And when you started in 2017, that was still wildly accepted out there where it's just like, hey, we're going to go after anything and everything, just start dialing. And I mean, I started in this industry as a broker, back in 2011, and that's how it was back then. But now when I'm out there cold calling, I have to be very specific about why I'm calling somebody, or they are hanging up, they are not talking to me. And it's almost like I feel like this is a major miss by a lot of organizations, is actually training their staff, but most importantly, developing them over time about why you're actually calling people. And I think that it's one of those, but I also think it's a major opportunity for those that are willing to actually invest in training and developing their team. Because to me, this is not a zero sums game, right? Like there's no end goal of like, hey, you're good enough in business now, right? Like I feel like if that's your mentality, you have an expiration date if you don't.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry to cut you off there. I was
No.
just thinking you're so right because, I wasn't given, there was no training
Mhm.
at all. And that particular brokerage does, when I left, they had just started training, like new brokers. And so and then we lost our VP, which was my boss. So I didn't have a boss, right?
Mhm.
Like I had a pod leader and it was actually the person that hired me. But, in terms of structure on where to start, I didn't really have KPIs that I had to meet. They
Yeah.
would tell me, you need to do this many calls. And then, I mean, but if you want it, you want it, right? Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if you want it, you can't teach somebody to be driven or to want to succeed. Or like you said, if you're going to have an expiration date, if you have like this is where I want to be, and then I'm done. You're not going to stay around too long because the sky's the limit, right? Like there's no, the sky's the limit, but it's complete ups and downs. Like
Yeah.
there's not like, oh man, I've reached this and I'm staying there, even though we'd like it to be. But training, going back to that, like there was no training at all.
Mhm.
I had to pretty much beg over and over again, which I get now being in my career, in the place or the
Yeah.
timing in my career now, and like having somebody underneath me that's brand new to transportation. I'm really having to go back to that mindset of what is it that my very beginning like brain was feeling just in just everything, like in the very beginning, because without the training on sales, and not just the selling part, but because everybody sells differently.
Yeah.
And cold calling is, I think we both talked about it. I mean, that's my number one thing, LinkedIn networking. But really knowing what you're talking about as well, because I remember somebody telling me my comfort word was right? Like I'd be on conversations like and now, I talk confidently because I'm confident in what I do.
Yeah.
And not that I know everything and not that I have touched anything close to all parts of transportation, but for from the years that I started in the very beginning, there's been so many changes and I've learned so much, and I've just remained honest, open, I mean, transparent. And so training would go so far. Like, you're operating with so many different systems, and some people aren't as fast at learning,
Mhm.
like just multitasking is key.
Yeah.
So,
And I see a lot of that, Nicole, in the sense of like, like obviously I'm a massive fan of training systems and processes and everything, but there has to be kind of that fine line of like, all right, enough's enough. You do have to eventually jump in the pool, right? Like you can't just keep dipping your toes in. And I feel like that's where the confidence ultimately leads to, right? Like I don't care what anybody says, cold calling can be uncomfortable. All right. Even to the most seasoned sales reps out there, you just never know what's going to pick up the phone with it, right?
yeah,
And the like I've been cold calling for a very long time. There's times that I even find myself, I'm like, oh, this person literally, I am the last thing they want to be doing right now. And you got to get creative. But now I look at it as like, this is a challenge. I'm going to win
yeah,
this call. And then it turns in from, yeah, to, all right, well, here's my email address. Just send your information over. I'm like, boom, that's a win. And that's the way that I see
right.
it. And I feel like that's where a lot of people, and I'm a massive fan in slow and steady growth, right? Like systemizing your day on what you're going to hold yourself accountable to calling, right? And I use example, everything that I say or I'm about to say here is an arbitrary example, but like start with just making 25 cold calls in a day. All right. But then do that every single day for a month. If you hit 30 in one day, awesome. You're doing 25 the next, right? It's all about building the system up there and then becoming more efficient with your time. And then after you hit that, what you're going to realize is 25 calls might take you 4 hours to start, but then you get it down to 2 hours and then boom, add 5. All right. And I'm a big add 5 initiative kind of guy with it because it's like, all right, then get your systems around and then do 30 every single day for a month and then add 5 onto that. And then before you know it, you're making 55, 60 cold calls a day, every day without fail. And you've built your day around that. So you hit it. And I feel like that is it's one of those things when it comes to business development. Everybody wants it when they're motivated and they're excited. Very few can do it every single day with a smile on your face when you get told no 99% of the time.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Like, and even, doing it for so long, I've just like you, there's days that I'm like, oh, I just am not feeling there'll be, there are days, and especially, up until, like probably before the last 6 months, like, I was so slammed. I didn't have time to call, I didn't have anybody that I needed to train in sales, and I was getting a little bit just, swamped, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like you have to make sure that you have other accounts out there and just remember the flow of just bringing new accounts on, because like I said, as we all have, I'm sure, lost big accounts for whatever reason, or had change in career, or where we go one place or the other, or, being like right now, I just had medical issues and that I'm recovering from. And, I was not prepared to be out just without anybody helping and not having an ops rep, because I had one for a few years. And then I was by myself for a little while again, and I was just slammed. And there's only so much one person can do, but I will never bring somebody onto my accounts as an ops, because I've always done cradle to grave, unless they actually mirror my service, right?
Yep.
I'm never going to let go, because each account is like, it's almost like your baby, right? Like you've worked so hard to get it, and, relationships, and not just the customer, but the carrier relationships as well, and the support behind that, like, is amazing. For the back office side and it's very much needed, right? With all the stuff going on with the double brokering. And you've got just numerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about, you brought up something there about bringing on an account, right? I feel like there's a massive, I'll call it a facade that like people just give you business, right? Like, I don't know
Right.
if it's talked about enough on how long of a sales cycle it can take to onboard a customer, let alone a customer of substance. And when I say a customer of substance, if you've been brokering long enough, there are people who will add you to their distribution list right away. And then that very rarely, I'm not going to say never, but very rarely leads to an account with some ROI to it. I have found that the accounts that take the longest to onboard end up being the most fruitful long term. So
Absolutely.
when you're out there prospecting, Nicole, what does that look like from like we've got it down now, like, because we track this data where it's anywhere from 45 to 60 days from first phone call. And I'm not saying call that went to a voicemail. I'm talking actual call to a prospect where you have a conversation. It's about 45 to 60 days of follow-up before you get your first order.
No, I definitely, I don't know the number of but days, but for example, your yearly RFP customers, right? Like there's a deadline of March for, a huge customer of mine. And, we missed it for a certain reason that we'll have next year figured out. And that's something that doesn't worry me in this scheme of, I know I know that next year, you know, we're going to have whatever we need in order to get set up because, having changes to who I work with for, I, there's things that everybody has to learn. And, the yearly RFP customers as well are, because they plan theirs a year and ahead. So, and it's before I know it, it'll be here because I feel like this year, I can't believe it's already here again, like, I had a call Friday and LinkedIn saw somebody and I like specialize in a lot of refrigerated, like small, like 1 to 10 pallet, like truckloads. And I started putting this 1 to 2 pallets on a 53-foot reefer when I first started working with them in 2018. And I'm still a customer to this day.
Love it.
And, it's one of those things that I started consolidating, having like 10 stops sometimes, getting one driver to do it. Or I found a network carriers that have the Sprinter or their box truck reefers. Because there's no such thing as LTL reefer that I want to touch,
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so like I had a call Friday and I really didn't think it was going to amount to anything. He said he wasn't bringing on anybody, wasn't going to until the beginning of the year. So I'm making notes of this, but, following up with an email and all this and boom, Monday, carrier drops the ball, broker drops the ball on a huge, shipment of theirs. And so he was like, well, here's our lanes that quote these. And also anything coming down the pipeline, I'll send your way. And I'm like, yes, set up. Yeah. Bam. Did not expect it, but right. Like being consistent, following up, because you call one day, somebody may hang up on you because they're busy. I learned in the very beginning, somebody taught me if they hang up on you, make a note, call back. They're busy. They have freight. Right.
Correct.
And so, yeah.
I think that's one of those things, Nicole, though, where, you kind of learn that in time. And, and I say this often, everybody's good until they're not. And who are they going to think of in that moment? And I feel like there's a right and a wrong way of prospecting. I really do. I'm of the mindset where if somebody tells me like, hey, we're good right now, I will ask them, hey, would it be okay if I followed up with you in May? It's March right now. Would it be okay if I followed up with you in May, excuse me? Again, I'm not looking to be annoying, but at the end of the day, and again, I'm a niche broker. We only go after open deck freight. I'm like, hey, I know that, things happen throughout the year, right? Like and again, it's mainly, I'm always alluding to this. You're good until you're not. How can I respectfully follow up with you where I'm not going to wear you out to where you're going to block my number, block my email, but where I can drop in occasionally and then be respectful? Because again, I look at things so differently now, Nicole, as a business owner, right? I'm like, I get it, man. People are busy. Nobody sits around and waits for Nicole's email or Chris's email to come through and be like, God, I wonder what Chris is doing today. I really wish he would email me right now. That doesn't exist, right? So how can I position myself to where they think of me when they need me? And where, because I'm convinced of this. There are two groups of people out there. They're I will never work with this person ever under any circumstances, or in the event I need to reach out, I want to reach out to Chris because he's respectful, he listens, he doesn't wear us out. And I feel like that's just how it's done out there. And I think that if a lot of people they're too pushy as a sales rep. And I get it, you guys, I don't have a salary, right? I have been self-employed for 5 years now. I understand the need for revenue, but I also understand the fact that if you lose an opportunity, it's never coming back, ever, under any circumstances.
Yeah, I totally have to agree with you. I'm right there with you. I understand things totally different now as a business owner. And, just like right now, being somewhat slower on the being just swamped with freight. I'm on the slower end of what I'm used to. And, but I'm also understanding that with anything new, like having, the new guy, Brian, that started with me. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And it's because of his drive, his hunger. He's really, he's asked a bunch of questions, which was I got made fun of when I first started, right? Like seriously. And my nickname is SB, and I was like, what is that? And they're like, Sierra Bravo. And I mean, they made fun of me, called me short bus, saying I asked too many questions. And then I'm like, we had where our numbers would come up, and with, if you hit so many loads a day, or, ambition is what it was, I think. But I'm like, hashtag scoreboard. No, and then they were covering my freight, the ones making fun of me for asking questions. But anyways, so yeah, I've changed. I mean, things have slowed down because but but I'm not worried. And, the guy working for me came from totally different career, but wanted something where, because he was topped out, and he wants more. He wants more. He wants to be able to, have flexibility as well. And he was like a stressful on your body, like labor job. And so, yeah, he's like worried about income right now. And I'm like, it's okay. Like I'm not like, here are my numbers. I'm not worried, because I know this is how this industry goes. This is how this job goes. But I'm confident in everything I've seen, everything I've done, and all this work I'm putting in right now. Like we talked about, like you saying 45 to 60 days before you really see anything. And then, when you start moving freight and you don't get paid out, I mean, like numbers, the money comes, but you just know there's so much freight out there. And if you want it, you can get it. And you don't have to be able to do everything. Like you said, open deck only. I love that you go, I don't do it all. I am not your LTL guy.
That's actually been probably our second biggest, I'll call it like our second biggest closing line that people actually want to talk to us is when we tell them, hey, if you guys are LTL heavy, I don't even want to waste your time with it, right? Because like I don't do it. I literally had a prospecting call this morning where I turned it in from a no to a yes, because he was like, well, we're primarily LTL. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't do LTL at all. I only do full truckload. That's literally all I would be interested at this time. And he's like, well, we have a contract with, such and such brokerage for our LTL. I'm like, hey, sir, I completely understand. If you're LTL heavy, I'm not a fit at all. I turned all of that into, well, man, you know what? If we do get some truckload from time to time. And I'm like, yeah, man, that would be it. I'm like, how about I call you back next month? Does that work for you? He's like, yeah, man, call me back next month. Ask for me. We'll talk next month. And it was all because I said, no, I don't want that. I don't want your LTL. I don't want your reefer freight. If anything, it's open deck or full truckload dry van. And that is it. And that is all we want to talk about. Now, with that being said, though, I sell on a core competency, but if an existing customer comes to me with something and says, hey, we have this other freight here, our current providers are dropping the ball on it, what are your thoughts? That's a different sale at that point, because then it's like, hey, you know what? Let me look into that. You got a little bit more time. You can go out there and expand your network, because I feel like the spray and pray methodology of we'll do everything, we're the best at everything, it just doesn't work anymore. And if it works for you and you're listening to this, cool, keep doing you. All right. I'm just letting you know what my sales style is, what works for us, and how we onboard customers in this market, because it's a different market now. I don't know if the days of being, the one-stop shop are really going to be a thing forever. I don't think it's going to happen, Nicole. I think that they want that subject matter expert that's out there. And I feel like you got to be willing to do that. And frankly, I've done enough food loads in my career. I'm kind of bored with them, right? Like I love the complexity of an open deck load. I love having it be a game of inches and stuff like that, and crane off.
Yes.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely, with all your permits and everything like that, with your OD. I mean, I'm saying though, like talking to you, when we spoke a few weeks ago, it was the first time I'd ever really heard somebody say they didn't say they did everything. And I that stuck with me, because I like that, because when I was taught, it was one of those things of, we can do it all and we'll figure it out after you get off the call. And I'm like, but no. And, and I've, turned everything around from what I learned, and, picked up stuff from other people, but, and I've just been me, I've been transparent, honest, and open. And like, it's crazy. You never really hear of this, but one of my dear friends who's, a customer of mine that I just he's a great person. He's been doing this for like 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so you talk about somebody that knows transportation, knows what the hell a broker is,
Yep.
knows what's needed. I had called him when I first started, just thinking he was in charge of everything at the previous company he was at. And I didn't have a clue of what I was talking about, but I pretty much let him know that at the end of the call. And we had a good talk, just talking about trying to get in touch with the right person and how I started in the industry. And, he reached out to me on LinkedIn a few years ago, started with a new company and was like, "Hey, are you still in transportation?" I was like, "Absolutely." He's like, "I'm looking for a good, good broker, a
Yeah.
good partner." And I'm like, "Let's do it." And, it's one of those things that you don't really have that where people reach out to you. And it was such a compliment.
Yeah. I think like there's a lot that if you're not focused on how do you benefit from that, because you were you in that moment, Nicole, and I'm assuming you were just like, hey, I'm new, I'm learning, and you caught the right person who's like, all right, let's talk a little bit. I've been doing this for a
Yeah.
while. Let's see where I could possibly help. And I feel like, a lot of people overlook that in the moment because they're only concerned about how do I just get money from you. And
Yeah.
I have, again, I've just found that if you're just like talk about just brutal honesty with people, it is such the opposite reaction that most people get that they're almost like, holy shit, wait, what? No, actually, let's talk
Yeah.
more now. I want to talk to you because you're being honest. And I think like if more people just cut to the chase and they're like, no, this is what I can do, this is what I won't do, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, there is so much power in saying, you know what, I'm not sure about that, let me get back to you. There's so much power in that because everybody is so, yes, we'll do it, yes, we'll do it, yes, you'll do it. And then what they do, Nicole, is they miss their one opportunity to actually prove themselves because they get themselves in a situation. And again, I'm not saying don't take risks, you guys. I am all about taking risks, but to a point. Like if I don't know something, I'm not going to commit to it because at the end of the day, what's more important to me is it's my name that's associated, right? It's my business name. It's my reputation that is on the line, nobody else's. And there are certain things that I will not do. And if I can't do something, I will tell a customer I can't do that. But guess what? I've never lost a customer for saying, hey, that's just a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. I've lost a customer. I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
100%. And then it blows up in my face. And then I just lost somebody for life at that moment.
No, I'm thinking of exact situation that happened to me a few years ago. Literally, I'm like, oh my God, like given this amazing contact, and like I connected with him. We like the same football team, like we talked about all this stuff, and he finally called and he's like, can you do some, like, I don't know if it was warehousing, but he needed something that was warehousing, or it was out at the port, like out west. And I'm like, yeah, because I've got these guys behind me because I was a sub agent at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, because I'm asking, like, hey guys, listen, can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. And do I have their help? No,
Yeah.
I didn't
Right.
get. And like to this day, I'm like, I mean, like first impressions are everything.
Correct.
So your first phone call with somebody is huge, and but it's huge on the part if you're given, like you said, the opportunity to be honest. Like I don't do everything, or this is what I do. Can offer you.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, Nicole, and this is one thing, like, I'm very fortunate, like, through this podcast, I've met a lot of people across all facets of the transportation industry. And, you brought up warehousing. So I'm going to use warehousing as an example here. If somebody came to me and was like, hey, we need help with, like, and I literally had this recently with a prospect of mine. They're like, hey, man, we're actually looking for, a drop yard facility in the state of, I believe it's like Vermont or New Hampshire. We need something up there. And they're like, can you do that? I'm like, I can't, but I know a guy who can, right? Like he does commercial real estate. He's all across the country. I don't need to make a dollar off of everything, right? Like I would
Right.
rather put somebody in contact with someone that I
Yes.
know is going to take care of them because again, I'm of the mindset like I'm never going to get punished for doing a good thing. And you know what? I don't know warehousing. I don't want to know warehousing, all right? Like that's not my jam. until I buy a warehouse, then it'll be a different story. But like right now,
Right.
I'm going to put somebody in contact with them. I'm going to do that. It's just like in the LTL space, truckload space, all of that stuff. I know people that I can introduce them to. If somebody comes to me and it's like, "Hey man, can you do this LTL?" No, I can't, but I know this person who can. They're way better suited for any of that stuff. And I feel like if you do that and you stay true to that, good things will come to you with it, right? Because again,
Right.
first impressions are everything. You're not the end all be all that you think. And then ironically, I'm assuming, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, Nicole, how many times did you go to somebody and say, "Hey, I said we could do this," and then they're like, "Well, why did you agree to that? We don't know how to do that. Figure it out on your own."
All the time. Because
Exactly.
I mean,
Shocking,
like,
right?
like all if I ever said that and I really thought I had somebody's support and like they're gonna help me figure it out. Well, no, they have lives accounts of their own that and it's like,
Exactly.
I mean, and I'm just they said Google's your best friend. I'm like, what? But it
But
is, but it's also not when you're really have given your word on something. So now, I mean, I'm straightforward, right?
yeah,
Like completely straightforward, and I think that's key.
your name and reputation is everything. And that what you're describing right there, in my opinion, Nicole, is borderline recklessness. And it's also why brokers have such a shitty reputation out there in the industry is because of that mentality of just like, oh, just say yes to everything and figure it out. What you don't realize sometimes this freight for this customer is their literal P&L. That is what
Yes.
pays all of their bills. And that's the level of seriousness that I think people should really approach this, as opposed to, well, how do we make 50 bucks off of this? It's like, no,
Exactly.
no, no, no. This is literally how these companies cover their monthly overhead is by the freight that's on that truck. And that's the level of seriousness that you need to take this shit as you go out there and prospect.
I mean, you couldn't have said it better because, you know, the freight that you're moving could stop a line, an assembly line, and I mean,
Correct.
they're out millions and I mean, every 10 minutes or something crazy, like Volkswagen, like I know, for example, if they don't have parts and it stops the line, I mean, they're out so much money and like, that's a ton of people being, a ton of issues happening with a ton of people,
Mhm.
but and just for example, like with carriers and drivers, when I first started, and something that still to this day, I mean, I've taught it to the new guy working for me, like, do not try to take a carrier off a load. If you sent the rate con and you told a driver they can have it and somebody else calls in, whatever reason, you think you can make an extra 50 bucks, 100 bucks, don't do it. It's your name gets out there. Like, or it's just like the karma that comes with like transportation. You get fucked later
Yeah.
because that you're going to need that carrier or whatever. And it's not, I mean, it's just something you don't do.
Yes.
And I mean, I've heard that there's so many more brokers out there now. And so, and it's crazy because most of them don't know what they're doing. They are just in there thinking that, I mean, oh, working for this big company and here's some names to call, because I actually hired two guys like 2 years ago to work for me, and they only did Dre. And that's something I don't do. I haven't done it. Yeah, I'm sure I could learn it, but
Yeah.
that's just not where my specialty lies.
Mhm.
But when it came to getting those accounts on their own, and I mean, they were like working together at this other place and everything, and one came and the other, but they couldn't do it without the back of the name of the company they worked for, the brokerage,
Yeah.
right? Like, and they didn't have. So I mean, I see now, like, and there was no drive to make sales calls. I'm like, do you not realize you're commission only, right? Like,
Yeah.
you get at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, with all that being said, like, there's so many different sides of it. And the good thing is, it's like I've tell like the guy that works for me now, like, I'm always right here. I am here to answer any question. And and he's able to cover loads right now, which I'm like, you don't understand how lucky you are to have loads to cover to
Oh,
learn the operations side off of.
yeah.
Because I didn't have shit handed to me. I don't know about you, Chris, but I didn't have not a damn thing.
No, I'm so fortunate for the relationship I have with SPI. The fact that they took a chance on me I didn't have a book of business at all. I had 0 customers when I started with them. I had nothing. Yeah, I had some contacts from like when I was brokering before, but I had nothing, right? So it's like it has all been earned. Every load that we move now
Yep.
is based on a cold call or a site visit and us going out there, my business partner and I going out there and building this, right? And I
Mhm.
I I think like um there's so much benefit in having the opportunity that I have with SPI to build my business up, the resources that are at my disposal where, like with me right now, Nicole, is it's just like I get to flex like I'm a couple $100 million organization when I'm out there because they got the systems, the back office, the processes, the technology.
Yes.
Like I don't have to worry, Nicole, if I onboard a EDI customer, am I going to be able to pay my EDI bill every single month? Or
Right.
do I have the technology? Can I invest in the technology? Or can I have that technology ramped up and ready to go when I go live with this customer? I don't have to worry about that, right? Like it's a literal plug and play that comes along with it. So it's like the resources that are at my disposal now of like, yeah, I got to go out there and I know that when we get to that next level, that next door that we knock in, that we get and onboard a customer, it doesn't matter how big they are. I know we have the resources at our disposal to make that happen.
Yeah, no, I just met with a customer. I went to visit a customer last week, and it went amazing. It was a customer I've worked with previously, and just wanting to make that change. And they couldn't have been happier to hear, just about everything SPI offers,
Yep.
and they have in the like the client care team, just having somebody that's really there and to give you the right person to call because there's somebody. I mean, I'm still learning like so much and of just because I've not always had that that back office support and
Yeah.
it or somebody to go, hey, you're doing good, that we see you, kicking ass or whatever it is. And so yeah, it's been awesome though, like just this is the second agency I've worked for, and it's like, just in comparison, I'm
Yeah.
very appreciative for what they have to offer.
It's and anybody can take what I'm about to say and piece anything together in their mind that they want. SPI has been a longtime partner of mine on the media side of things and the brokerage side of things. They are the real deal at the end of the day. And the back office team, like
Yeah.
I'm going to lump all of them in the same category here because they're all absolute rock stars. Like it does not matter what we need when we need it. They are there to support our operation. And that to me is like we don't have to like hold our breath like is somebody going to like no, they are answering, they're on top of it. That like we again like moving open deck freight, there's a lot of high value insurance that comes through. We can purchase riders through them in a matter of minutes, right? Like there's been times where we have to pay for cranes to come in. Guess what? They take care of it for us, right? Like we don't have to worry about that stuff. I don't know where else that can happen. Again, I've never had this is the only agency I have ever worked with, and this is the only agency I will ever work with at the end of the day. And I just know that like there's that confidence that comes along with it that there's not going to be a situation like we're not going to get to the goal line with somebody, Nicole, and they're going to be like, oh wait, you don't have that? Yeah, you're done. We can't even set you up if you
Right.
do X, Y, or Z or stuff like that. And that's a very real thing that a lot of people will find themselves in if you're not with the right partners out there.
Yeah, I've definitely found myself in that situation a lot. Just I'd be going, getting like just making like an awesome sales call, did an RFP, everything. I mean, did this
Yeah.
all, I mean, it took, I can't tell you how many hours and days and weeks, I mean, before then giving the contract to somebody else and them saying, no, we can't do it. But I'm not even explained to why we couldn't do it at the time. But, now I'm rocking and rolling and I'm back already talked to that person. And I'm like, I'm with SPI, I know we can get you going
Yeah.
and we can hook it up and make things happen that we've talked about like 4 years ago. And he was like, awesome. Bam. Sent over, paperwork sent over. It's just, I was just like, yes, this is great. Like, and the support with like okay, I'm not an Excel genius.
Yeah.
So something that somebody else can do in no time, like with an RFP that's very large, I never had that support. And so I had that just happen this week. And I mean, they had it to me, SBI had it to me in maybe 2 or 3 hours. And he was like, usually we need 14 days, but I see this is due on the 21st and I'm going to get it to you. Hell
Awesome.
yeah. And then when I got home from the hospital, because I'd started with them, I went and I had some medical issues and I had to stay in the hospital and all this. And the day I get home, I let them know. And I have flowers sent to me from SPI. And I just thought that was the coolest thing because, they have so many different agents that work for them. And it meant so much to me. I'm like, who are these from? And yeah, it was from a family at SPI. So that was awesome.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
I love it. Well, hey, Nicole, I appreciate your time. This flew by here, and I kind of figured it would. Like you're gonna kill it out there, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing you grow and everything else. And I just appreciate you joining me. How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on, though?
So anytime you can email me or connect with me on LinkedIn or any social media, Facebook, Instagram, but LinkedIn is where my go-to. And then you can always call me, on my phone and I'll give you that info.
I was going to say, yeah, but don't put your number out there. Make them email you.
No, I'm not. So I'll give you that. And my email address, of course, and all that stuff. You can just, if you DM me on LinkedIn, I'll get it to you.
Perfect. That works. Nicole, thank you so
Thanks
much
so
for
much,
your
Chris.
time. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show as well, you guys, because that's how we get out there and reach more people. Is because if you saw value, that's how your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.